we're going to do a transfer. So one of the things we've got to have is we've got to have really clean dops, right? Dirty dops are going to make a problem every time. So we want to kind of fold up and kind of make a corner, make it nice and wet with some alcohol, and we're going to jam that corner into the cone and press this thing in. And you can hear that I'm using a lot of force, right? Because brass will sit there and oxidize in between, and it'll collect dust and other crap, and you just want it really, really clean. So I'm going to inspect it. I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at a pristine, metal surface is what I want to see. It's not a lot of money. Make really sure that you clean it really good.
How gentle do you have to be when you're cleaning it? Because I find myself being really gentle with the stone so it doesn't fall off.
I wipe the stone about as hard as I would wipe my eye.
Okay.
If I had a real itch right here, like right next to my eyeball, about how hard I would wipe right in here. And that's about the best clue I can give you. If it would kind of hurt wiping in here, it's probably a little much. For this size of a bind, that's a 2 millimeter diameter space that's glued. So same thing, put it in the stand. Put a little glue in here. And not enough that we're going to have a bunch of it running down the side. So it's not quite full. Instead of the surface tension doing this, the surface tension is kind of doing this. Right to the edge anyway. I want to see the glue around the girdle. And that squeezed out a little bit. So quick swipe. And we'll have a nice clean, hopefully a nice clean transfer. All right. It's just a little wiggle. And what I'm going to do is wiggle, and I'm going to feel it begin to flex a little bit. And I don't want to flex it so hard that I could break the stone, right? And especially you get to, you do this with topaz, you're going to be careful. You can, you can snap the top of it right off. So I'm feeling a little bit flex here, but this is pretty stiff. So one came off? Did it come off the flat? You want to make sure it came off the right end, right? So I'm going to do this other one. That one's going to be a torch demo because it's a little too stiff. So I'm going to take this other one and test it. And if you feel a little bit of a flex, okay, so that one popped. Okay. So we got the flat came off, which is what we want. They'll use heat. I actually learned this method from Norm Jarvi, except for the test. The test is something that I do and just started doing. Norm Jarvi actually taught me all the rest of this technique that I'm going to show you guys. And I took a piece of brass shim stock and just made this thing. Norm used an old serving spoon that he bought at a garage sale and cut this notch in it. So you want big torch, not little torch, not little bitty butane torch, not alcohol burner, big torch. Lots of BTUs, okay? Lots of BTUs is important to make this thing work. You want to really make sure that you're holding the correct side of the stone so you release the side you want to release. You put the cone side between 2 fingers and drop the other side in the slot of your heat sink or your heat shield. So now I've got this one-handed arrangement like this. And I tweak this a little bit so I can put a little bit of sideways pressure on it if I want to. I'm going to direct this away from the stone onto the dop, but I'm going to heat this dop really aggressively. I want to heat it a lot, really fast. And it's going to drop off, and I'm going to put the stone on my face. So don't copy this demo.
Can you detect any heat?
No. Sometimes you can detect a little bit, and a little bit bigger stone than this you could detect a little bit. But it's, I do that demo to show no heat really transfers. Now that sucker is really hot. So if you guys do this, use the magazines I gave you, and get an extra person there to watch with a pair of tweezers or something, and make sure that that other dop doesn't burn a hole in the table or drop and burn a hole in the carpet or something like that. Because this thing is really, like, this will still be really, really hot. You can't, like, I can feel the heat from here in my finger. So this really aggressive heating is important because you want the heat to travel through the dop very rapidly. Because when it hits the superglue, when the superglue hits about 200 degrees, the superglue will lose its integrity and the other dop will drop away. Now I kind of use a little bit of a sideways tweak with my little heat shield. Just a little bit, not a lot. Just to help it come loose when the bond breaks, to help it come away from the stone. But it separates from the stone so quickly that heat won't get into the stone. Now that's only true if you heat this very, very rapidly. If you heat this slowly, the heat will continue to go into the stone until the whole thing gets up to temp, and then it'll release both sides. Right? So you want powerful heat. And Norm Jarvi emphasized to me, big torch, lots of heat. Fast heating of the dop. Did anybody have one that didn't snap? Did everybody snap?
I think I'd rather use the torch.
This is a pretty, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of feeling how strong the bond is, right? I'm rotating a little bit. I'm feeling how strong, it's a pretty strong bond, right? So the torch might be the trick for this one.
Yeah.
There's also, this is a pretty good sized dop, so there's a lot of surface area. And the bigger the stone, the more surface area, the bigger that flat dop, the more likely you're going to use the torch. So do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
Go right ahead.
Want me to demo it? Okay, so we'll demo it again. Put it between two fingers, and this is, I built this so I could do it with one hand. So I'm binding this flat dop just slightly, just so I can have good control of this. Little tiny bit of sideways force. Okay. You put a lot of heat on the dop and have the heat directed away from the stone, because I don't want any heat to get on the stone. I want all the heat to go through the dop. And it pops right loose, and I put it right on my face. Okay? You guys don't have to do this.
Well,